Hey, how's it going, everybody? Ben Axelrod, Nick Camino coming to you live from WKYC Studios. Just a few hours ahead of Game 1 of the American League Division Series between your Cleveland Guardians and the New York Yankees. And Nick, it's October 11th.
It is.
And we are talking baseball here in Cleveland.
That's a beautiful thing. I was saying it's nice to be talking baseball this late into the year. What a ride it's been for the Guardians, and I'm shocked that the game is in prime time, right?
Yeah, I know, right? That's what time is it here?
The Yankees.
I feel like we should be in the 8th inning by now here
right?
at 3 in the afternoon. But we'll get to this series because obviously lots of anticipation, huge stakes for both franchises. But I just wanted to take a look back at the wild card series between the Guardians and the Rays. 2 games, 3 runs for the Guardians, 2-game sweep. 2 very, very memorable games here in Cleveland. I guess we start Friday with that incredible home run by Jose Ramirez to seal the 2-1 win with Shane Bieber pitching a gem. And then obviously on Saturday, that game just ended here a few hours ago, it seems like.
Feels like that.
With the extra innings. But just, for a 2-game sweep, a 3-game series, just an incredible series for the Guardians.
Yeah, it was funny. Terry Francona was talking yesterday at Yankee Stadium. He said, I'm glad we hit a couple of home runs here and there, not as many as the Yankees, because we might still be playing. And it's true. I mean, it's unbelievable. And I was just thinking about when you mentioned Game 1. That was a terrific game. It was just Game 2 was just so crazy with no runs being scored. They go into the 15th inning. They eventually win it. It was the longest postseason game that has gone scoreless, longest scoreless postseason game in MLB history, which was pretty wild. But to go back to Game 1, all of a sudden, you're down 1-0, and you're thinking, oh boy, are we throwing away another gem here, as you called it, from Shane Bieber? But they answer, and the guy who has been there for them all throughout the season from start to finish, their team MVP for sure, Jose Ramirez comes through with that 2-run homer, as you mentioned, and then Bieber and the guys in the bullpen did a great job slamming the door, and then to go to Game 2, the way that they did it, just grinding through that, having so much frustration that they can't score a run. Having, in the top of the 12th inning, the Rays have runners on the corners. Ramirez, again, makes an amazing play. And Naylor makes a nice stretch at first base to keep them scoreless still. And then, for Gonzalez to hit that, late in the game. I mean, I think we're seeing the blossoming of a young star there. First of many for him. He could eventually maybe be a 30-home run guy. So really cool. What a ride it's been. They're kind of the underdog story. Nobody predicted them to be here. And it's got that feel of David versus Goliath, and to be the underdog here, it's fun.
Yeah, and that's it's kind of fitting that Oscar Gonzalez, one of the rookies, hit that home run because that's really been kind of this team's MO. I mean, that's 17 guys making their major league debut, I think, for the Guardians at one point or another this season, and that, to me, transitioning here into this best-of-5 series against the Yankees. That's what's going to be interesting for me, is this team obviously still have Jose Ramirez, still have Josh Naylor, some veterans all over this lineup, but these young guys are really going to have to step up in one of the biggest spots here in Yankee Stadium to keep pace with, it's one thing to, I call it moneyball, the Rays. It's one thing to moneyball the Rays. The Guardians, especially in the lineup here, they're going to have to keep pace with a pretty good hitting team.
They're the youngest team in baseball, and the thing I think of is this could almost go one of 2 ways. Number one, it could go, and this is the positive for Cleveland, would be maybe they're so young, they're just not thinking about where they're at.
They don't know any better.
Yeah, it's just let's just go play. They don't know any better. It's what they do. They go win. They're staying hot. They're peaking at the right time. Or maybe, unfortunately, it could be these guys get really tight. They're at Yankee Stadium. It's going to be a crazy crowd. And you just hope that the moment doesn't get too big for them. So it feels like it could go one of 2 ways. Luckily, they have Terry Francona. He's been sending a great message to them. Hey, let's just go play. You guys have won at every level you've been at. It's different now. It's a big stage, but just keep doing what you're doing. Pay attention to detail and, try to play good, clean baseball. The things that they talked about way back in spring training in February, they really have carried that into October, which is pretty crazy. Yeah,
I mean, it's kind of interesting that mentality of having nothing to lose, because I think we saw in 2016 that was a team that maybe was a year ahead of schedule, a couple of years ahead of schedule, and we see them go all the way to Game 7 of the World Series. Then in 2017, they go all in with the Edwin and Carson trade. Yeah, 22 straight wins. And then they get tight in the playoffs, and you see the bats freeze up.
And they lose to the Yankees, who were a young team just coming up that they weren't expecting to be here. And you're right. It's that, and I do think in a 5-game series, weird things can kind of happen.
Yeah.
You know, I almost feel like in a 7-game series, the longer it goes, the better team usually probably wins. We saw that in 2007 with the then Indians when they played the Boston Red Sox. It was like they went up 3-1, and you thought, okay, Cleveland's got to kind of take this now. The longer that series went, it went to a game 7, and I remember just feeling like, boy, I think the better team won here. And so with this series, in a 5-game series, you don't have that much time. So if you can almost steal one here in New York, one of these first 2, and you could come back to Cleveland tied 1-1, I think if you're a Guardians fan, you feel pretty good about that. So in these short series with a house money approach, I think a team like Cleveland could be dangerous.
Yeah, I mean, we saw going back to 2017, we saw that momentum shift so quickly. The then Indians go up 2-0.
Yep.
Then they drop a couple in New York, and they come back, and all of a sudden they're facing elimination at home. And I think that's a great point. I mean, you could see a similar scenario, hopefully with the roles reversed here in Cleveland. One thing I think that kind of flew under the radar that I think was a big advantage for the Guardians was winning that series in 2 games, because it allows you to reset your pitching staff a little bit quicker. And that's it's kind of funny because this Guardians pitching staff, I think, has been a little more up and down than we've become accustomed to here in Cleveland, just because the pitching's been so incredible, even through some lean years. But to be able to get Shane Bieber back on the mound as quickly as game 2, and then go back to Tristan, to guarantee that Shane Bieber and Tristan McKenzie are both going to get starts in this series, and then to be able to throw Cal Quantrell out there as well today, that's a big advantage, I think, for the Guardians.
Yeah, and I would make the argument over the last 2 months, Quantrell might be their best starter.
Yeah.
So, I mean, to get him tonight, boy, if you could steal one with him tonight, and then you've got Bieber there, you've got McKenzie there, as you pointed out. That's a great point. You didn't have to mess around with a game 3 where all hands are on deck. Everybody's going to pitch, no matter what. You might have seen Bieber again. Who knows? But you're right. They rested. Obviously, the Yankees are rested. They got a bye. They've got Garrett Cole going for game 1. But, yeah, to have Bieber out there as quickly as possible in this series will be really nice. That's a good point.
I was thinking back to that 2016 World Series against the Cubs, and I remember a lot of Cleveland fans getting really upset about how much Kyle Schwarber was kind of swooned about, how excited that Joe Buck got about him.
Yeah.
I have a feeling Guardians fans are going to get pretty sick about hearing about Aaron Judge this next week or so.
Yeah, I don't even know that I would pitch to him. I mean, I would, maybe you do the unintentional, intentional. I mean, he's the one guy in that lineup, I feel like. I mean, they have some dangerous hitters, don't get me wrong. But over the last month or 2, they've kind of, besides him, been a little bit cold, and I think it got to be a little bit of a circus with him passing up Roger Maris. I think there was a lot of focus on that home run chase that I know you have no interest in. You've said he's the 7th all-time or 6th all-time. We've had fun
11
with that.
more to go.
11 more to go. So, I mean, I do feel like that kind of took a little bit of – I just feel like he's kind of taken center stage for them, so people haven't talked about it. But I think their offense has actually struggled a bit, but I think he's the guy that can truly change the complexion of a baseball game with one swing of the bat, as we know. And then their bullpen is really struggling. Not only were they that great, they also are shorthanded. Yeah. So I feel like if you can get to their bullpen and you can limit the amount of damage that Judge can do, I think he'll be in this thing.
I think, you're so used to that Yankees lineup being this murderer's row, no pun intended, but of guys just 1 through 9 who can change a game. And I still don't think there's a lot of easy outs in this Yankees lineup. But without LeMahieu, who's not going to play in this series, I mean, I think you're right. I think it's Judge, Stanton, Rizzo.
Yep.
And
who can all hit it out of the park.
all hit it out of the park.
But it's a good point. Like, I feel like after you get past their 2, 3, 4, you start getting into some guys that, they get on base and things like that, but I don't think they're not going to kill you with the home run ball. So it'll be interesting. The one thing I want to mention, too, in this, because I've been hearing people say, they've got that house money approach, and, is Cleveland just glad to be here? The one thing I'll caution people on that is, and listen, the Guardians are a great story. Weren't supposed to be here. When you get there, though, next year's not guaranteed. And I know it feels like you've got this young core and you're going to be here a while, and maybe this is just the beginning. Those are all great storylines. But I remember, when Cleveland was playing the Cubs, there was kind of a thought of that, like you had mentioned. And, don't worry, in 2017, things will be fine. What happens in 2017? They get knocked out in the ALDS. And then, it's like, so I almost feel like, yes, it's a great story, house money approach, underdog story, that's great. But also, when you're there, you gotta try and win this thing.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like it's not crazy to talk World Series because next year isn't guaranteed. How long is Terry Francona going to do this? So there is a part of me. It's like, okay, let's hold off on the underdog thing too much because when you get there, you got to win.
Yeah, I mean, imagine if I went back to 2007 after they lost that series to the Red Sox,
100%,
and said, "Hey, it's going to be 9 years before this team's playing in a playoff series again."
And in 07, they were kind of thinking,
I was out of my mind.
They were kind of thinking, oh, we've got Eric Wedge here. He's this great manager. The next year, in 2008, they go like 500.
Yeah.
In 09, he gets fired. 2010, Manny Acta's here. I mean, think about that.
Yeah.
So when you're there, you got to win. The underdog approach is fun. The house money approach, it's great. It's a great story. You're up against the big bad Yankees. There is a part of me that says, though, go beat these guys because you don't know when you're coming back.
Yeah, we can dissect the ins and outs of this series. To me, I think it's as simple as can they score enough runs? Can they? Obviously, what they did against the Rays, they did enough to beat the Rays. That's not going to get done against the Yankees. So that's what I'm looking at is can they show some more consistent offense than they showed this past weekend?
They're going to have to score runs, especially in that ballpark. The ball just flies. It gets into the jet line. It just goes. It's a small park.
Yeah.
You are going to have to score some runs. I know there's a magic number of I think it's 6 when they score 6 or more runs. That's asking a lot. But I also think there's a number of 5. If they score 5 or more runs, they're like around 61-5, something like that. So if you can get to 5 runs, I think you feel pretty good about not only your starting staff, but the guys in the back end of that bullpen too. You think about guys like Karinchak and then obviously Clase A.
Yeah, I mean, that's watching the game on Friday when Jose hit the home run. It's like, okay, got one more inning to go to get to Clase A.
That's right. It shortens the game.
That's such a big advantage, right? Especially in the postseason.
I had a chance to talk to Austin Hedges, the catcher, in the clubhouse the other night, and he just said, hey, we feel Clase A could go 4 innings. So there could be a situation, tighten a game. We saw Terry Francona do this with Andrew Miller.
Right.
You could see him in the 7th inning. I wouldn't be all that surprised because you want your high leverage arm in there in certain spots, and then maybe you have a Karinchak or somebody else come out of the bullpen to close it out with a clean inning. But if it gets, Yankees have 2 men on base, 1 out, and Aaron Judge is at the plate in the 7th inning with 2 outs, you might see Clase A. So it'll be interesting.
It's going to be really interesting. All right, I can't get you out of here without you got a money line pick, a run line pick. I think we've got the Guards plus 1.5.
Yeah, I would take the value. Why not? Take the underdog. I think, again, like we said, in these short series, crazy things can happen. And if you can get that first game or second game even if you lose tonight, it's not the end of the world. If you could win game 2 on Thursday, then if you lose tonight, that really puts the pressure on the Yankees coming back to Cleveland. Ballpark, we know it's been empty a lot of the year. It'll be crazy on Saturday.
Tristan McKenzie back on the mound.
I mean, it's going to be electric on Saturday. So that'll be, if you can come out of there 1-1, you'll feel good.
Yeah, definitely. Well, if your guys around our age, you grew up with a lot of Cleveland versus New York, a lot of Indians, Yankees.
That's right. Chuck Knobloch.
Absolutely, yeah. So excited to open up a new chapter here tonight, heading into the ALDS. So that's going to do it for us. Thanks for watching on WKYC.com. For Nick Camino, I'm Ben Axelrod.